Hello, and welcome to the Uncharted Faith podcast. I am your co-host, Amber, aka Amber Bear. We have
Alton, aka Pastor.
In this podcast, we embark on a journey of discovery, exploring uncharted territories of faith, spirituality, and the mysteries of life. So today, we're diving into a topic about personal reflections and insights on relationships in heaven. Now, this is a conversation that we've already had amongst ourselves already. So we just wanted to invite y'all in on the topic. So go ahead, sit back and get ready for this. Before we go all the way in, I want to start it off with a little quiz. So we're going to test the knowledge about relationships in heaven. Now, I am not going to lie to you. These questions are going in. These questions are going in. Okay. Which Bible verse states that in the resurrection, people will neither marry nor be given into marriage?
This comes up with a conversation that the Pharisees and Sadducees were having with Jesus. And the lawyer came and asked him and says, it's in Matthew, but the lawyer asked him and says, well, Jesus doubled down on the idea that marriage is a worldly thing, an earthly thing, but not a heavenly thing.
I like how you answer the question, but they answer the question. You gotta be careful when you ask a pastor to talk. You're supposed to give us the Bible verse that states.
I know the Bible verse. I know it's in Matthew, and don't get me wrong, I think it's Matthew 22, I think. So as I ramble a little bit.
That's not about right. It is Matthew 22 and 30. For in the resurrection, they neither marry nor are given into marriage, but are as the angels of God in heaven. So I'm looking at my answers.
I'm not looking at your answers. I don't need your answers. I just knew it was around that 20th verse.
What book of the Bible describes the vision of the holy city, the New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God?
Revelation. That's the main place.
We should have started off with that one, huh?
Yeah. Give me some juices for it.
According to 1 Corinthians 13:12, how will our understanding and knowledge be transformed in heaven?
Right now, we don't fully understand it, but once I get to heaven, I will understand it like I understand myself. And Paul was saying that it becomes clearer when we are actually in heaven, when we get rid of all the stuff that blocks us from understanding who God is, understanding the relationship that we have in heaven.
Okay, I'm gonna go left a little bit. So people will say, I'm gonna just say people. You might be one of them people. I don't know. People say that'd be a cop-out answer when they ask Christian folk why they can't understand a concept or why something. How something is or why something is, and we kind of say, well, that's not for you to know. Well,
that's not a cop-out. I'll give you an example. The idea of love, we can't comprehend the totality of what love is. We got a feeling what love is. Love, that matter of fact, the whole chapter we just read lists all these categories of love. And yeah, we want to say we can measure up to those things, but the idea that love don't hold any envy, love don't do all this stuff. I love you, but I still, got some things against you. Hold on to some stuff. So yes, that's not a cop out. That's the reality is we can't fully love like that chapter tells us to love until we fully. The Bible tells us that we will take off this corruptible body for incorruptible. That means we get to the point where the stuff that bothers us now can't affect us because we no longer have that corruptible body anymore. And so we can't fully understand the Bible concepts, how much God loves us. We don't even know how much God loves us. We know He loves us, but man, when we talk about that, and that's when you see people shouting because they realize their own condition, God loves them. Can you imagine that? When you look at your, forget about anybody else.
Right.
I know what I did yesterday. I know what my thoughts were. I know what I was doing, and God still loves me. That just blows people's mind. So it's not a cop out. It's just we just can't comprehend that right now. It's like, and Jesus even used the idea is that the bride, he is the groom to come back for his bride who he left on earth. That they are to be together. And so this idea in heaven, there's no spiritual battles in heaven. There's no need to have what we need here, there, because we have Jesus Christ. The light of Christ will always be. Now we don't have to worry about it being embedded in us, it's going to be around us. And so certain things that we need here, we will no longer need in heaven. We no longer in this corruptible body. We no longer have the struggle of sin around us. We don't have the adversary, Satan, working against us. We don't have the adversary of our own selves working against us, because now we have been transformed. So the stuff we need here, we don't need that anymore. And I know it's like, so we're going to practice for 50 and 60 years together. And no, your relationship in heaven will still be there. You just won't be married. Elias comprehends a lot, but some stuff he just can't comprehend until he gets to another level.
Right. We think we just trying to take the fun away from him. Like, no, child, you're being dangerous.
Yes.
You're being dangerous.
You don't understand why you don't want him to climb up the stairs and falling backwards.
Right. His comprehension is only so much.
Yes. And that's us.
Okay. Now, because he hit on this love thing, I know you have a rant, so we're gonna take it into our next segment. Real. So go ahead, you got something to get off your chest, Pastor?
Yes, I have been looking at and dealing with this tragedy of New Orleans, and digging into this guy and what would cause this guy to go from active in the military, willing to die for his country, and then to kill in his country. How many people, and this is where I think we as people fail, because we see people throughout our days, throughout our time, we see them struggling with aspects of their lives, and we won't do anything because we expect somebody else to do it. We expect the church to do it. We expect the government to do it. The government should do more. What are we doing as individuals? Could somebody have come and said something to that person? It's amazing. I look back on my life and how parts of my life I've had people speak things to me. And I really didn't take it the time. I'm not talking from a Christian standpoint. I'm just talking about just from an idea of guidance. Somebody says, hey, man, you are smart. You're talented, man. You can do way better than this. What you think about doing this? And just those little nuggets. Again, these weren't spiritual conversations that people talk about. Just common thoughts that says encouraging words, doing those things. How many people saw this guy? How many people had opportunity just to encourage him? Just to sit back and say, okay, I know your marriage is this way, but man, how can I help you do these things here? How can you do that? And I know that there are people, we can't save everybody, but we can't not do everything we need to do. When I say save them, I'm not talking from a spirituality, save them from themselves. Give them opportunity to see, how can I help him to see it? Never give up on people. I think we give up on people so quickly. And again, we want someone else to do it. And that's usually a time when we took care of each other. We made sure that we were helping people. We got to saying that, well, it ain't my business. Well, because it wasn't your business, now we have funerals to go to.
Right.
Now we have to donate blood because this happens. Now we got this stuff going on because it's not my business. We needed to be about our business. Othering is something that we need to be about. And I'm so sick of this idea of waiting on someone else to do it. I'm not going to wait on Trump to do it, or Biden, or there are other men. There are men in position. But what are we doing? And so it irritates me that we sit back, not everybody, I'm not pointing at everybody. This is not in general, but man, I wish that person was in my pathway. And maybe I could have said something, maybe not. But the idea that we have so many people who we come in contact with that are needing help, and we just pass them by.
Right.
Because we are so caught up into our own self. We do it at the grocery stores, we do it at the gas, we do it in all these different places. And so, it warms my heart to see people that pay it forward. They say, okay, I'm going to pay for that person's lunch. I'm going to do that. Not because I want something out of it. I find myself sometimes, there was an older lady that came into, matter of fact, it's when you had just delivered your youngest baby, and we went across the street to get something to eat. And we just sitting there, and the older lady came in and she sat down. I don't know who she, I don't know what it was, but it's just in my heart it says that my mother came out and says, make sure you bring me her ticket. Don't tell her anything, just bring me the ticket. She brought me the ticket and I paid for it. And then as I was walking out, she went to pay for it, and the lady said, no, it's already been paid for. She said, who would do that? And I just kind of walked out the door. I don't know Maybe she was coming out. She was by herself. Maybe she had just came from the hospital and her husband is sick or whatever. Maybe she had to look in her face. But just then, by somebody doing a good deed for her, it may have gave her more inspiration. It's like, man, a stranger just paid for my lunch. It ain't as bad as I think it is.
Right.
And so we find ourselves, I do that. I try to do that often. I'm not a millionaire, I'm not a billionaire, but I try to be proactive to, as us Christian folks say, I like to bless somebody. Not so that I can get acknowledged of it, but just to be able to do that. You never know what that gesture does, or even having a conversation with somebody, you never know what that's going to be. And so my rant is, we got to get out of ourselves. And the world's not going to heal itself. The world's not going to take care of itself. And you know, everybody laughed at me because this last New Year's Eve, I had played a song, the old song from the 70s. I would like to buy the world a coat and teach it harmony. I would like to show what it means to love. That was something in the 70s. It was not about myself, but it's about that. It's about making sure we're leaving the world better than what it was. Now, this is a person who never, if you asked me this 30 years ago, in the military coming out, man, you couldn't, man, you better get out of my face. But then we got to change that. So I know this is a long rant, but my rant is, I am so tired of us waiting for someone else to do it. Waiting for your pastor, waiting for your doctor. Well, I got the best doctor, and everybody comes see them. No, won't you tell them about won't you tell them your experience? Won't you tell them that, hey, look here, I've been down and out. Look here, I've had this, and people always says, well, I want to get where you are. No, I want you to be better than me. I don't want you to come to my level. I want you to go to the next level. You don't know what it took for me to get to this level, but I know if you go higher than me, you'll realize what it took to get to that level. So anyway,
no, you're right, because we're in a get somebody else to do it type of era, and we need to be more proactive. Unless sympathy only goes so far. Sympathy only goes so far. Instead of just feeling bad for someone or seeing that, okay, they're in a circumstance and just seeing that, we need to actually, okay, what can I do to alleviate whatever stress or issues that person is doing? How can I bring joy back into this person's life? How can I, as someone in the community, help build and reshape my community?
Yeah. And it takes one conversation at a time. And all of us, everybody who's listening to this, whether that's one person or 1,000 people, you have experienced something, you saw it, and you was like, well, I don't want to get involved in that. You saw somebody deteriorating, and you says, well, I'm not going to step in. And I've learned this. Stepping in is just saying, hey, I'm here for you if you need me.
Yeah. When you first brought up the topic of what the tragedy that happened in New Orleans, I was just thinking about how we as the global church needs to embody the Good Samaritan. And so some things I'm gonna leave y'all with, okay? I'm gonna leave y'all with 8 things. We need to embody the Good Samaritan. We need to recognize the stranger and who it is that we're supposed to be helping. We need to actively be compassionate. We need to build a supportive community. We need to listen and be present. We need to advocate for justice. We need to pray for those who are hurting, and we need to lead by example. So if y'all want to dive deeper into those 8 points, I will leave that down in the description box below.
Can I dig in at just 1 second?
Yeah.
And I didn't know you was going to bring up the Good Samaritan, but what you just said was the odyssey in that is this: the Good Samaritan helped out a person who is known as their, for lack of a better word, their strongest enemy.
Right.
So he didn't look at that person as my enemy. He looked at it as a person in need.
In need.
As in that story, the people, the rabbi, all these other people who walked past the guy should have helped, but the person that helped was a person that you would never think of to help.
Right, the most unlikely choice.
And so we are stereotype people and says, oh, that person is Asian or a Arab or blah blah blah, and so therefore that draws my line on them, or
right.
Or he's an African American, or he's a white, or he's that, and so because it's not in my context, I don't want to help them. But if we are the global church, Jesus says, who is your neighbor?
Yeah.
Your neighbor is anybody who's in need, any person right across street from you. And even that, we won't deal with that, because if they're not like us, we won't even invest in time with them. So,
no, a lot of the times, if they too close, we more likely to keep them at distance. Okay. I don't think there's any true neighbors anymore.
Yeah, and look, that's why we got these big fences now in our yards. And all that. We want our privacy. I want to deal with nobody.
Okay, give me a 10-foot fence.
I kind of see you did some research. I did a little bit. Let's just dive in it, because you have some strong thoughts. And I'm not disagreeing with your thoughts, but you got to know, I'm going to piggyback on that verse you said, 1 Corinthians 13:12. The ending of that verse says that a lot of stuff we just won't fully comprehend until then. And I don't want to use this as a cop-out, but how heaven works is not how it works on earth. This body that we have won't be the same body that's there. So I know.
I want to read the Amplified version since I have it up.
Okay.
It might be a little more in detail. Okay, so for now, in this time of imperfection, we see in a mirror dimly, a blurred reflection, a riddle, an enigma. But then, when the time of perfection comes, we will see reality, face to face. Now I know in part, just in fragments, but then I will know fully, just as I have been fully known by God. So that's the Amplified version of, again, 1 Corinthians 13:12, about how our understanding and knowledge will be transformed once we finally do reach those pearly gates.
And then you guys are coming in on the end of the conversation. We had this conversation 2 Sundays ago, and we always have these deep conversations after church. My daughter, Amber, was very passionate about this idea that, you know what, I'm married. I love my husband. He's my best friend. And I told her, I said, well, I'm likewise. I've been married for 30 years, and I love my wife. She's my best friend. But marriage was a component of God's ministry for the ministry of earth. You just won't be married. Go ahead.
You went too deep. Because, okay, I'm going to start it off, y'all. I'm going to let y'all catch up on the conversation. So this all ignited from a real friendly, real innocent family game night. And there was something that was thrown out there. And I left with the thought of, if I can't have the husband I have right here on earth in heaven, baby, that concept, I mean, all of that is great. Not having no worries, not having no stress, not having no negativity. That's all great and dandy. But baby, what is heaven without my husband? That sounds crazy. I know. I don't leave yet. Don't click off yet. But I get we might not need certain things anymore. But baby, I want to have relation. Okay, now we can't say relation. I want to have my relationship that I have with my husband in heaven.
So yeah, this has been a deep conversation, and this is what I would say, and this is the truth. Me and Joyce, my wife, we have been best friends since we were sophomores in high school. Once we met and we started talking, we never dated because we were so close in relationships. And even when I tried to date her, she wouldn't date me because, man, Alton, we could talk about anything, man. He is my best friend. She wrote me a letter and said, when the war was going on, please go bury yourself somewhere and don't come out until the war is over because I'm going to lose you. We were just that close, and I would call her. So I understand this concept about having that person. I'm going to have Joyce in heaven. I'm just going to need what she gives me here, because realize what that connection is what the connection I have with Christ. Everything that comes from that relationship is no longer going to be needed, but we will still be together. We just want to be married in heaven. We will still, and this is because we don't have the full concept of that. We read through and get bits and pieces of what goes on in heaven, and really Revelation is the combination of what happens in the end days and in the first years and years of heaven. We don't have this conclusive picture of it. And so my mind is this, to live in that eternity, is that I'm going to still have a conversation with Joyce. We're going to still be talking. We're going to still be there. She's still going to be the same person she is here, but in a spiritual form where I don't need all those other things because I'm in the presence of God. He's given me everything that we need.
Okay, see, that's the wording where maybe it was just me, y'all, but maybe some of y'all feel the same way, where it's like that wording is like, I see where you're going, but at the same time, okay. So it's like this. Okay, so when you get to heaven, just being in union with God is gonna fulfill all your needs, yada 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 yada, and that's the ultimate love. Perfect. That's good. That's dandy. But I don't want to be up in heaven like, oh, what's up, Elijah? You made it. Yeah. All right. See you in Sunday service.
So that's what I'm trying to say. See, because even in our Christian mind, we are still jacked up with stuff we sometimes still don't know how to pray right. We still don't know how to go through things right. So our comprehension is as a child when it comes to spirituality. So you're right. Our concept is, man, God, you've given this great relationship that you're here on earth. How is it going to end now? It's not. It's just going to transition to heaven. But there won't be marriage. And this is a great example, is that in the olden days, when they said that when the brother dies, his brothers should take on their wives to make sure they had covering. They had these things here. And that's what they practice. They practice that. We don't practice today. We don't practice that says that, hey, I'm married to Joyce, and God forbid one of her sisters' husband dies, and now I'm not gonna go marry her. I love all her sisters. Don't get me wrong, I love them to death, but I don't want to marry nothing. Like I said today, I got my wife. I know who it is. So that concept doesn't even roll into our culture,
right?
But there are people who, let me get this. There's people who got married at 17 years old and should never got married, and they go through a cycle of just hardship and pain. 5 years later, divorce, and they end up marrying somebody who is who they should have married to begin with. That's who God had set up for them to marry, right. And they've been married for 50 years since that point. So I'm saying our concept of living on earth is surrounded by what we've learned, what we see on TV, what we experience. Why you and Elijah are good is because y'all all already have went through some difficult times. Every marriage goes through that. And the more you overcome, the closer you become. Mm-hmm. The closer you become, the more you know each other. The more you know each other, you realize, I don't want to deal with nobody else. What I said, we got.
I know what I got.
Right. Look, I know what this is. I don't care how green the grass over there. I know what I got. I know what I have. I understand that relationship because I can step over there and they can be as crazy as I don't know what. They can just be. And so that's God using our ministry of marriage to give each other what they need. Joyce was meant for me, even if I try to mess it up. Joyce was meant for me, even though she tried to mess it up. And God worked it out so we came together. I don't think God will build that and then get to heaven and say, all right, now we're moving on to something else. Go there. I think God does that, and then the reward of that is that we think marriage is good here. God desires marriage, but he elevates it to something else. So I don't think you'll be in heaven and it's like, yeah, okay, Elijah, you go, oh, hey, Joe. I think that whoever goes first is going to wait on the other one to get there. And when they get there, now heaven is complete because they are there. See, I think it's going to be a reality of those who don't get to heaven. Lazarus is in hell looking at heaven. What is it? It's not Lazarus. I got to get my mind's not. This is Sunday, y'all, so don't take
say oh boy. Say oh boy.
Oh boy. So oh boy, he's in hell. He's asking for him to give him just a drop of water. The reality of that is that those in hell will be able to see heaven. That's hell. Yeah. To see you ain't make it and see what the people who make it doing. And you can see that. And you heard me say this before. I liken it to one time my grandma punished me. My grandma knew that I loved to play sports. Man, we played baseball, but we were always playing sports. One time I got a whooping, then she made me go sit in the front room at the window
and watch everybody else play.
I got a whooping, and then so I'm in hell. Now I gotta watch heaven. I thought that was torture. I thought that was the worst because we didn't have cell phones or video games like that. It was going outside. And she made me sit in the living room. And in the front, we had a big window. You can see everything. I see all the kids out there playing. I'm just mad. Look at tears coming out of my eyes. Just like that. That when you make it, people are going to see you and Elijah in heaven. Regardless of how that relationship is, you're there.
You talking about regardless. See, you say regardless, but it would be me with the tears if I know your flesh don't go to heaven, but if my flesh made it to heaven and I had to see my husband across the way,
you're not gonna see
that would be.
I just want you to imagine.
Man, I miss marriage on earth.
No.
I know you wouldn't.
Because again, let me put it this way. Let me do it this way for you. And this is what I would say. A play. Let's say a play. So you go watch. You watch Romeo and Juliet, and you watch high school students do it all the time. That's earth. You just watch it do it all the time. Then you got a chance to see it on Broadway with professionals. So it takes your experience and elevates it to a whole nother level. You like going camping.
Yeah. I'm trying to go right now, but it's so cold.
Listen, it's like all your life you only camped in not your backyard, but my backyard, which limits you to do what you got. You can't do this. You're limited based upon your surroundings. Now you hit the lotto and you go buy your own place, and you can have whatever you want there.
Right, my estate.
So you just got elevated from what you're used to having to here. Your mind can't even comprehend it. We can dream about what heaven is, but you can't comprehend it until you do it.
Right.
And so I can't tell you that feeling that you will have. I just know that God's not going to give you something on earth and limit you in heaven. God is not going to flourish you in a relationship on earth. God's not going to put time and effort into your relationship that you guys keep each other on a spiritual pathway and then get to heaven and pull the rug from underneath you. I just can't comprehend God doing that, because everything he says, I come not that you just have life, but have life more abundantly. So why would you give you more life abundantly on earth and limit you in heaven? What I'm trying to tell you, and I think what he was trying to tell them, is that the fleshly marriage that we have won't be the same in heaven, because you won't need that fleshly marriage. But what you have in heaven will be an elevation of what you have now. What that looks like, that's why I said, regardless of what it looks, I just can't comprehend that the God I serve, who's a good God now, will turn bad God in heaven.
Yeah. And it was at that point where I was like, okay, I can rest easy. Because at first, when we was talking, I was like, I just might cry. But yeah, that made me feel a lot better.
No. I had to kind of think that through. And even as we start talking about this series that we're going through with Elevate to Your Next Level, God is exalting you. Why would he exalt your marriage?
Right.
So what he does is he dissolves you, what you think the marriage is, and he actually elevates it. Because really, we are the bride of Jesus.
Yeah.
So that's the true marriage. So if he has put us together in his marriage, I don't think he'll get to heaven and says, well, okay.
The other stuff is just practice.
Listen, you already had the best, right?
Yeah.
He says, in my Father's house, there are many mansions. Or some people says, many houses, many villages. Depends on how you want to break that word down. If it was not so, I would tell you so. So what he's saying is that here he's talking to a nation of people who are living in dusty homes and living into all these things here. For them to say, I'm going to leave from earth to go to heaven, he's elevating them to a whole different place. Can you imagine? He's talking to people who lives in shacks and sheds and living in caves and huts. And he's telling them, heaven is where the mansions are at. Heaven is where the streets of gold is. So that tells me that if the streets are made of gold And I think it's more of, my thought was Jesus was saying this. He says that the value of heaven is such a great thing that what we put value in is used for streets.
Right. Is what you're going to be walking on.
So he's elevating our thoughts. He's elevating the idea of what heaven is. If you think that you got it going on right now and you driving on concrete streets, let me elevate your mind and says, heaven is tenfold of that. So let's expand that. If the streets are tenfold better than what we have here, and the houses are way better than we have here, why would you then downgrade the relationships? I just think he takes us to another level. And what that level is, I don't know. And I'm gonna stop using level. I'm not trying to put anybody.
I thought that was a little innocent plug in.
I'm not trying to put anything in there, but you made me think about that. You made me think about even now, the relationship I have now that God, we have 3 kids, we have 5 grandkids, 3 boys and 2 girls. And so, and when they all together, oh my goodness. Anyway, let me just pause for that second. but you understand what I'm saying? It says that don't think about it as marriage is eliminated. I don't know what you call that next step above marriage.
Right.
But if God is in the business of elevating, he takes our worldly things and makes them better. So it's not gonna be you on one side of heaven and Elijah. I think you're gonna still be together. I think it's gonna be better than what it is now. That so we can't comprehend that. That you're gonna be happy that, spend eternity with the person that you spent a lifetime with. So I know that's kind of deep. My daughter does not give up easy.
I don't. I come back and I have another point, and then I have another point for that other point.
So again, we didn't know we was going to do this topic like this, but to be prepared for her, I think God is working on your marriage so that it lasts a lifetime, but I don't think it ends at a lifetime. I think it's just called something else.
I can get down with that.
This is our first episode, but there's so much stuff that we deal with, and you came with that passage on your own, 1 Corinthians 13 and 12. This is why, anyway, she said what she said, can't give a pastor a mic, can't get a minister a mic, because I would just go off and ramble. But this is my daughter, who is more like me than my other 2 kids, so it's going to be hard for her to kind of let me ramble, because she's going to ramble.
All right, so as Pastor said, this is our first episode. This is our introductory into some of the conversations that we're going to be trying to have on the podcast. So again, it's Uncharted Faith. So it's about exploring conversations about faith, spirituality, and just life. What should our listeners expect to hear from us on episodes to come?
I really want it to hit you where you are. When I say hit you where you are, there's not this pretty pathway from us to heaven. There's not this. I'm gonna say this, and I might irritate some people. There's no faking it to get to heaven.
That whole fake it till you make it is gonna break us.
It's even this idea that I walk around as if I never sin, I never do any of these things, all that stuff. And if anybody ever heard me preach, I'm gonna preach that this is what I'm going through. This is what God is doing in the midst of our life. If those who were closer to Jesus were stumbling even as they were walking with him, seeing him do those things, how that makes me more perfect than they are. This idea of Judas, who was working with Jesus, who was one of the ones he called, and he still struggled with the path that Jesus was going to go into. We think of Judas was more about let's take over, let's rule, because some of us want to pick up our situation and have it right just for us. Jesus says, no, I came there for whoever. So anyway, this idea is that I don't want to dress up where your walk is. I don't want to make it pretty for you. I want to get your reality that says that, you worship on Sunday, hell coming on Monday. Matter of fact, sometimes it happened before you got to the parking lot. I don't want this thing to be pretty that says that, we're going to we walk this. No, this is a struggle. Paul says, when I would do right, evil is always present. I want y'all to look at that statement. Sometimes you by yourself. So if evil is always present, you bringing evil to the table. So how is evil is present and all of a sudden you all this holiness that you can't do this? Don't get it wrong. We are called and set aside. But in this conversation, I want us to be real about it is a struggle to be a Christian in today's society. I don't care I don't care if you're a pastor, preacher, deacon, whatever you are, a usher or saint. Being a Christian in today's society is hard.
So I want to have the people at home. I want y'all at home to either just ponder amongst yourself, or if you feel brave enough, leave it down in the comments. What are you actively doing and how are you evangelizing to create the heaven that we ultimately want in the end?
I would say this, outside of the church building. What are you doing to build a church of heaven outside of the building?
Thank y'all for listening to our introductory podcast episode on Uncharted Faith. We have dived into the idea of personal reflections and insights on relationships in heaven. It has been a wonderful talk.
And I'm looking forward to us having those live conversations because that one was 4 weeks old. We had a chance to build off of that one.
Yeah, but no, I got a couple of things, like I said. So put that hashtag salvation if you want to talk about salvation, who that applies to, when that goes into effect, all of those things dealing with that topic. Yeah, so if you are excited for everything that we have on this platform, make sure you share it with somebody. Make sure you like the video and comment down below hashtag salvation or hashtag Uncharted Faith. Y'all have a great day.
God bless you.